Audio log. Starship. Ice Star. Date. October 4th, 2042. Hello to whoever is listening. It's October 4th, 2042-21. I'm aboard the Ice Star, currently on a smooth transit around the moons Beta 21 and JJT1. I didn't really want to be making this voice recording, but the general told me that letting my psyche drift so much isn't safe. He says exposing my thoughts and my history in an audio file might help me. He'll probably try to get his hands on this eventually, so I'll have to hide it well. Besides, I already sort of narrate my life in my head anyway, so this won't change much, I hope. Let's see. I won't start at the very beginning, but let's go back to where this life really took off. Currently, I make a living killing monsters, hunting. I'm a rare class of Cosmos touched, so my services are always complicated, but the pay is good. Very good. About 3 years ago, I had just turned 16. I lived on Manarian C2. Whoever named that place didn't have much creativity. It was a mining moon, part of the sequence Manarian A, B, and C. Just a poor, dusty rock. We call them mining moons because, well, that's all there is. Sure, little towns form, but most don't even have the basic shops you'd find on a civilized world. Back then, I was an orphan in a place out in the desert. There was only one town nearby. You had to take a long dirt road to get there, built right around an excavation site. You can imagine why they'd put an orphanage so far from civilization. To exploit the children, of course. There's no cheaper labor than kids, or slaves, if you live in a sector where that's allowed. Anyway, we lived near a breach zone. I'll assume your knowledge on this is basic. In this world, there are these portals, or maybe calling them fractures would be better. The space outside planets is filled with a radiation we call the cosmos. When this radiation accumulates inside a planet, reality breaks, like glass when someone punches it. This creates areas with zero gravity, plants from one planet appearing on another, entire zones teleporting, but most commonly, creatures are born from it. We lived a few kilometers away from a forest area that contrasted sharply with the arid desert we called home. I believe it was generated by a breach, too. The explorers, older kids like us, would go out to scavenge that jungle. It had some tricky fractures. We went looking for fruit, food, animals, minerals, anything of value. We got paid for it, but usually not in money, just benefits at the orphanage. The deeper you went, the worse it got. The worst breach there had an effect where, in a 5-kilometer radius, anything that died would eventually turn into a monster. So, if a boy was fatally wounded or died, we were forced to smash his head with something heavy so he wouldn't come back. As you can imagine, it wasn't a good life. Me and my brothers by choice, Xander and Vet, had just turned 15. For kids who spent their lives exploring, getting hurt, and living in an orphanage, we weren't even malnourished. I think we just had luck on our hunts. I've had this capacity since I was little. The general told me I must have been born with a predisposition for telepathy, psychic things. Maybe that helped. Even if I didn't control it back then, my instincts must be due to that. The director of the orphanage, who, thank God, is already dead, was a cynical man. Gray beard, drooping eyes, and a smell that reminded me of alcohol, though I couldn't quite identify it. Maybe it was medicine. He controlled everything alongside the maids. In the morning, we ate. In the afternoon, we hunted. At night, we counted the profits and earned a type of imaginary credit to spend at the orphanage. Nothing special. Basically just slave labor. That month, Vet turned 15. It was January. Being a year younger than us, she had become a woman. Xander and I already had the same thought. That place was too small for us. All that work, living like that just waiting for one missed jump to end us? We needed to get out. We had to provide something better for Vet, too. So that's what we did. One night, we grabbed our things and fled the orphanage toward the city. We didn't have much, but Xander stole an old sword from the director. It wasn't very useful, but it could definitely give someone tetanus. We headed toward mining area 66. I believe that after 65 mining areas on that rock, they really ran out of inspiration for names. The town was built around the mining site to make transport easier. It was a dirty, dusty, tiny little place. Basically, the transport and cargo area was the same size as the rest of the city. But I can't blame anyone. In a world where the economy revolves around exporting and you can't produce anything locally, it doesn't make sense to build a real city there. You just live somewhere else, a moon actually meant for living. We became beggars. We sold the sword for a few credits, enough to eat once a day, and spent the rest of our time thinking of a way out. You know, traveling between moons isn't cheap, nor is it practical. Traveling in open space lets the cosmic radiation hit you hard. The least you'll get is cancer. Of course, me and my brothers gained abilities from it, but that's not the point. We hung around the docking bays near those massive, dirty, worn-out ships that served to travel somewhat safely between nearby moons. At least the company cared a little bit. The ships were robust and had certain safety technologies. It took a while before we figured out what to do. We decided to enlist in the army. Theoretically, anyone between 16 and 18 can. It was basically a one-year basic training, simple preparation. We'd get training, free food, and we could leave the moon using one of the military escort ships. I remember feeling that one of the guards would be more receptive to my idea, so I tried it. After some negotiation, we boarded. Later, I found out that certain military officers were involved in a scheme to sell trained combatants to the elites of other planets. They'd send us to real military academies and get a government bonus for it. Maybe that's why it was so easy to get help. It was during that trip that something finally activated. After so many years walking near fractures, it was strange that we didn't have any deformities or problems. It happened then. When ships leave a moon's orbit, they travel along what we call the road, a safe path formed by the junction of the orbits of two celestial bodies. They form a secure field that allows transit with much less cosmic radiation interference, but not zero. The ships still need powerful protection tech, especially if they have normal humans on board. It seems our protection was failing. I remember feeling nauseous, feeling like I was falling infinitely into a limbo, like being in an elevator that never stops. I don't know how it was for the others, but I felt it increase. My connection to other people, my connection to something supernatural. This is what we call being cosmos touched. The touched are those who, instead of dying or being deformed, receive their powers from the cosmos with very little initial drawback. At least, that's the theory. Then we have the mutated, those who received physical mutations from the cosmos. Although they can also have powers like the touched, people are very prejudiced against them because of their appearance. We, the cosmos touched, have many psychological problems, and that's something we have to control. Mutations are prejudiciously linked to a person being evil, and you don't want someone with the ability to bend metal bars with their fingers having a mental breakdown. I sort of understand, but I don't agree. In the end, it was on that day that I received my abilities. My telepathic capacities improved too. But everything was just beginning. After that, I had the most infernal year of my life in training. And later, I dealt with semi-gods a few times. Regardless, I'm rambling. This should be enough to make the general happy. My psyche is doing just fine. At least this will get him off my back. Until another day, logging off.